This is the Nøbodies Project. This is whatever episode I put this in. And, all right, quiet on set over there. And today we have Karlee Boon, a filmmaker, just storyteller, I would say, and a lover of horror, which is something I am not. So that's going to be super fun. But I always like to start with two questions. The first question is, what do you do for money? And then what do you do for art?
So for my day job, what I do to make actual physical money, I am a barista. I work at a coffee shop / bakery. And for my actual art that I do not get paid to make yet, I am a filmmaker.
Sweet. So let's just get right into it, because I think this is like the main meat of it all, is the current project you're working on, Night Shift.
Yes.
Do you want to just give everybody an overview of what that is? I want to go deeper into it, but I want to hear from you. Like, what is this project to you? Not just what's it about, but what is it to you?
Yeah. So Night Shift is it's a coming-of-age horror short that I have been in development for about 6-8 months now. And beyond it just being a short film project that I've been working on for a while, it's kind of my debut into filmmaking as an independent artist. I have done a lot of work closely collaborating with other people that I went to school with, and this is kind of my first solo endeavor, and because of that, it has a lot of importance to me, a lot of emotional attachment to the project and the story and the characters, and it's also kind of a big deal for me because I graduated during the pandemic from college, and I have felt kind of stifled in my creativity, and just feeling like I couldn't really make art for a long time, whether it was because I couldn't handle the prospect of making a film during the pandemic with all of the other complications that come with film production on top of dealing with COVID protocols and all that, but also because it was just very, very daunting emotionally to kind of get back in that headspace of wanting to create and feeling like I had a story to tell that was important enough to pay attention to when the rest of the world is kind of just fucking falling apart. So
yeah. The one thing I want to latch on with that is, you said getting your headspace in the right space, all that good stuff. I always like to talk about your worst rut, and at least with me, how I operate, and with a lot of the people I know how I operate, it kind of comes in waves. And you said production for 6 to 7 months. How do you not fall into a rut? How do you not, or do you just keep going? How do you keep going with Night Shift? And I'd also like you to go into some of the nitty gritty of how you get something like this off the ground.
Yeah.
Especially with those ruts, with the headspace, with everything going on in the world.
Night Shift is me coming out of my rut.
Okay.
That's what is kind of the crazy thing, and that's kind of why I feel like I should be an artist and I do have a story to tell, because I was really fucking depressed and dealing with a lot of stuff in my personal life last year that was really, really holding me back from being able to kind of reconnect to things that I love, like horror and watching movies and telling stories. And so Night Shift was a very cathartic way for me to tap back into that. And I don't really have any sound advice, or I really don't know how I did it. I just kind of woke up one morning and I was I'm sick of being depressed and not doing anything about it, so I need to fucking make something, and I need to start right now. So yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's always the hardest part. There's no one, okay, well, you just go to this place, they'll fix it for you, and then you just make your shit.
Yeah, exactly. It has been, like we were talking about earlier, it's just making that conscious choice every single morning when I wake up, to be driven and be ambitious and to just pursue what I want to do with my life, even when I don't have anyone else supporting me or encouraging me or telling me that I should do this. I have to be the one to kind of, it needs to come from like deep down inside of me. So it's challenging every single day, but I just kind of have to keep pushing because this is my passion and this is my dream and this is what I want to do with my life. And going back to like how I kind of got all of this off the ground, I've made horror films before. I've made stuff in college. I made 2 horror shorts that kind of, you know, like went around the festival circuit a little bit, and it was just kind of it was a good way for me to meet people. It was a good way for me to kind of find my voice. But a lot of stuff happened in between me making my last project and me kind of embarking on this new endeavor individually. And really the first thing that I needed to do was find just one person to help me. And one person...
having somebody who holds you accountable is absolutely massive. One person to believe in me and support me, and you know, like I have a very loving partner. Like it's not like he wasn't doing those things, but I needed a creative to kind of stand by my side. So I'm super, super grateful to my co-writer, Shade Standard, who I had worked on a previous script with in 2020 that we kind of, you know, like made the first draft. It didn't really go anywhere. We kind of like fell off of it. And I was like, I don't really know if we can make this. And for me, if I don't really see a possibility of being able to create something in a reasonable timeline, whether it's because of like a location or like a special effect or whatever it may be, budget, that's hard for me to kind of like want to continue moving forward with that. Yeah. So we had the script, we kind of stepped back from it, and then like I said, I was going through this really like big transitional period in my life, and Shade knew that. I had, you know, spent time with her like venting about it to her, and finally I just like woke up, I had this idea, and I texted her and I was like, I think this is our next thing and I think we should write this together. And I feel like we both have really valid things to say in this genre as women, as food service workers. And you're taking my question right away from me. I was going to say, like, I'm always interested, like I said before, I am not a scary movie person, but I love reading about like the stories, you know, everything like that. Where does the horror stuff come from you? So one of my favorite bands is the Front Bottoms, and the biggest thing is a lot of his songs are very sad. But when you talk to him, he's a very happy-go-lucky person because he said he gets it all out with his songs. Is that somewhat similar with the horror? Like, how did Night Shift come about? I've saw some things where it is based off some personal experience, but I'd love to hear your mindset and maybe speak to, you know, the horror community maybe as a whole. Where do these stories come from, and how do you get to these places?
Yeah, so for me, when I was kind of developing Night Shift, I literally pulled out a pen and paper and I was like, what scares me and what makes me mad and what pulls out like very visceral, strong emotions out of me and what experiences have done that to me. And I have been working in food service as a young woman since I was 16, and especially during the pandemic, it's been real fucking hard. It's been very mentally and emotionally taxing, like even more than in years prior. And so I was thinking a lot about that, and I was feeling a lot of anger and grief and just being lost, honestly, like having no fucking idea what I wanted to do, what stories I wanted to tell, what lens I wanted to tell it from. And I love horror because it's cathartic for me. Like it really truly is. It's a way for me to express all of those emotions that I feel like I sometimes can't in real life. And it's kind of a way for me to like write characters that can do or say what I've always wanted to. Like, for example, like Night Shift is about a waitress who kind of like gets to get back at a person in her life and a customer at her job that has been demeaning and terrible to her for a long, long time. And I mean, fuck, that's something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to be able to just get back at the people that wronged me, and doing it in like a fictional narrative is just kind of the only way that I can really do that.
Yeah, and it also sounds like there's so many ties to like almost like superhero-esque stuff where it's like, you know, a vigilante almost. But I like the supernatural twist from the horror side of it. So going off of that, what are some of your inspirations going into it? Now, I'm not going to know a lot of them.
Yeah.
But please explain to me like what they are, why they are what they are.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of inspiration behind Night Shift. Like, there's my own personal experience as, you know, a woman in the restaurant industry, and also just, you know, my living as a woman in general, my experience just being, you know, kind of seen as a second-class citizen at times in this world, and living in a world that really, truly just feels like it was not built for me or for my being able to succeed. So there's a lot of personal emotions going into it. But as far as like film inspiration, there's like 3 big key inspirations that I've kind of hit. So there's like modern feminist horror, which is kind of my favorite subgenre of horror. Like, I love seeing women get back at people that have wronged them in whatever sense it may be. So that's always been really inspiring to me, and I feel like women particularly just have a very complex relationship with horror. Like, we haven't always been portrayed in a very flattering light. So I wanted to make sure that I was able to kind of like counteract that with my own stories. Beyond that, I was really inspired by like the 1980s specifically. I've always been really attracted to the aesthetic of the 1980s. It's
now,
also,
what is that aesthetic? Is it what it's called, like, what is like slasher in that?
Yeah, so
that's somewhat in that. I know it's not. I'm stupid. I'm gonna just take it.
Slashers are like a subgenre of horror, which, yes, granted, like, we're
is that
super.
The 80s? Is that where?
Yeah,
okay.
No, totally. Like,
right.
That was totally like a big thing in the 80s. It's still a big thing today. I love like the texture, like the kind of like visuals that come with 80s. Specifically 80s horror. It's very like bright neon lights, and like I love the quality of like film itself. Like, right. I would love to shoot something on film one day. It probably won't happen for a while, but I've always been very attracted to that. And the 80s especially is kind of known as like the golden age of like practical special effects too, and that is definitely one of my favorite parts of horror as a filmmaker, but also as an audience member. I love seeing just things get absolutely torn apart. I love monsters. I love like out of the box, just crazy shit on screen. And the 80s was like the pinnacle of it. Like, I remember I got to see An American Werewolf in London from 1981, which is a huge point of inspiration for Night Shift for me. I got to see that at the Hollywood Theater, and Rick Baker, the special effects artist, did a Q&A afterwards. And I was very, very inspired after seeing that, and just being able to watch that film, especially projected on, I think it was 35 millimeter. So I feel really connected to the 80s. And I love kind of what that era did for horror. It kind of took it in less of a dramatic kind of direction, and took it a little bit further into the humor and the campiness, which is what I really like to achieve with my films is I want there to be like definitely an emotional undertone to it, and I want it to be smart, but I also want it to be kind of funny and kind of have that lightness to it that I feel like 80s horror just perfected, honestly. And then there's also like 80s teen movies, which I grew up on. I'm sure so many people did, like, you know, Ferris Bueller, Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Producers loving that one.
And my parents were in high school in like 1985, so I got to talk to them about just their experiences being a teenager during that time period, and I'm, you know, definitely kind of jealous in a way that they got to experience that, even if it didn't feel like it was that cool for them in the moment. Just like I probably, you know, I didn't think growing up in 2016 was all that cool either.
And now there's movies where they're like, we're in high school. I'm like, that's not high school. That's not the 80s anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to kind of like combine all of this, like, you know, modern feminist horror and the 1980s, and kind of take a lot of those qualities but still try to twist it into something that was like original and fresh.
Just viewing your little short spec that you made, it's very evident that the 80s are coming through. So you did a great job with that, especially the set, everything like that. We're going to dive in even more into, like, I want to know kind of how that all came about, everything like that. But we're going to take a really quick break and make sure everything's working well. All right. Well, there wasn't a technical issue. There was a small technical issue. But we're back, and now we're going to talk about your least favorite project that you've ever done. Maybe it's the project you were the most excited about that didn't end up being what you thought it was going to be, or just something you were super stoked on that now you're kind of just sad about.
Yes, I definitely have something in mind. So back in, I think it was October, it was fall 2019, I got my first kind of big movie that I was going to work on. I was an intern. I'm not going to say what the movie was, but it had a lead actor in it who is probably my favorite actor of all time. Very big deal.
I know who that is.
I basically shit my pants when I heard that I was going to get to work on it. And there were some really amazing parts of it. I don't want to totally like bash on the thing, but there are a lot of trials and tribulations that come with, you know, being an unpaid intern. You're not necessarily like the most highly valued person on the crew, and especially for this, I was feeling it hard a lot, especially because I had been a part of it since like pre-production, so I was in the office and everything, and there's this one experience I had that kind of just absolutely crushed me and made me not want to go back to set later that week. I was working in the production office, and my production coordinator came over to me and basically told me, "You're going to Eugene today." And it was like 3 p.m. and I was like, "What?" "You're making me drive to Eugene?" And he's
Which
like,
is how far?
It's like 2.5 hours.
I assume you were in Portland at the time. Okay.
Yeah, so it was like 2.5 hours south. Had to come back the next, in the same day. And I was like, okay. And he was like, yeah, so you need to drive the person who is going to be driving our Stars trailer. They're also the animal trainer, but that doesn't matter. So I got thrown in my car at 3 p.m. and I had to drive down to Eugene with a complete stranger who did not speak to me literally the entire time we were driving. And to make it even worse, she was vaping in my car, which I don't care about, but she was trying to hide it, and that's what really pissed me off.
Car. Where's it gonna go?
She had it in her pocket, and I kept seeing her.
Like the "I think you should leave" bit?
Yeah,
with the hot dog? Yeah.
Yes, literally that.
Yeah.
But we were in an enclosed car, and I'm like, I can see the cloud of vape juice that you just blew all over my interior.
I would love to know that she's not talking to you the entire time, but you are talking to her the whole time.
Oh, no, I was definitely, like, putting in effort, because, like, we were working on this cool movie. I was like, oh my God, how did you get involved in this? Like, you're an animal trainer and you're driving the trailer. Like, how did you get wrapped up into this? I was trying. I stopped trying about halfway through, and I think she I think she just fell asleep after a while. Like, the vape just hit her a little too hard, I guess. But yeah, so we drove in complete silence for like probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then she got out of my car and I just drove right back to Portland, and it was like a 5 or 6 hour round trip.
Oof.
And I didn't get like paid for it or anything,
no gas money.
Obviously. I think they did reimburse our gas, but I mean,
small amount.
The way they were pitching it to me though was that I was gonna like make money by getting reimbursed for gas, like because
they're doing you a favor.
Because they give you so much more money for the gas than what you actually pay for, which is just kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was weird. It definitely wasn't like the worst. I'm sure I will have worse experiences. That's what kind of makes this question hard, is like I feel like I've only scratched the surface as far as like shitty experiences I can have, especially on film sets when like I'm honestly most of the time the only young woman or one of the few young women that is on set with me. So yeah, I feel like there's more to come.
You sound so optimistic about it. Hopefully all your experiences are good going forward. And I like the idea that you're, taking it into your own hands to make your own stuff.
Yes.
Speaking of that, how did you get started? Did you just have a camera? Were you a kid who always had a camera, always making little movies? Just take me through your origin story real quick.
Yeah, my villain origin story. So yeah, I definitely was always a storyteller in some way, shape, or form. Like from a very young age, like I always drew, I always wrote. I always, I had a camcorder, and my best friend and I remember we had, one of the earliest iMovie, versions, and even before that, we would do that thing where you, record stuff on your camcorder, and then you pause it, and then you, go get a different angle, and then you just play it all back on the camcorder, and it's like, oh, you made a little movie, it's so cute. So yeah, I did a lot of that, all throughout, my childhood and middle school. I would make, little music videos to, there was, a Lana Del Rey song that I remember I was obsessed with, and I was like, we need to make a music video for this. It's just hitting too hard. I need to get these emotions out. And it was a lot of that kind of stuff until I, got into high school, and I started to get fucking embarrassed of it. And I was
you weren't showing those videos in high school?
No, I definitely, kind of fell off the creative end when I was in high school, and I was like, I'm going to be a biologist. I was dead set on I'm gonna be in STEM for some reason, because I was always in the AP classes and stuff, so I was like, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do, right? And then I got into college, and I'm from Phoenix originally. Okay. So I moved to Portland, and I was just suddenly surrounded by all of these incredible artists, of all mediums, of all skill level, and it was so inspiring. And also our the appreciation for film here is so much deeper and wider spread than in Phoenix, where I'm from. So that was also a big kind of tipping point for me to finally be yeah, this is actually, I think, what I need to pursue. Like, I
Right.
don't really see
So
myself
did you
being
c-
happy any other way.
Did you come up here to do biology in college? Or in
No.
some kind of STEM in college? Or did you take it? Because I was going to ask, because you said right after I graduated, and I was like, all right, did you go to film school?
Yeah.
But it seems like your high school did not lead to...
No,
Okay.
no. I didn't do anything creative in high school. I had my nose in books, like,
That's creative in its own way, I guess.
nonstop. Yeah, I mean, like, when I wasn't, like, getting high in my parents' backyard and watching weird cinema, like, by myself, I
Right.
never did anything or, like, shared that love, really, with many other people. And, yeah, I was, like, all through high school, I was like, I gotta figure out what I want to do. I wanted to be a vet for a while, and then I got really into Spanish, so I was like, I'm going to go into international studies, and
Yeah.
I almost, like, went and studied abroad for a year, and then I, like, backed out of it. I was just very indecisive, and I
Yeah,
could not get my shit together.
You were 18 or 19 years old.
Exactly,
You shouldn't be expected to
No.
make a life
The pressure-
deciding role in your whole
The pressure is very stupid already. So I went to Portland State with an international studies degree. And I basically took one term of classes like that, and I was like, I don't even see what I could do with this that I would find interesting or engaging for an extended period of time at all. And that was also the first term when I was like, I'm going to take a film class. That sounds fun. And it just kind of like changed my whole world, honestly. Like, it sounds stupid, but it really was just like, it was like this epiphany where I remember I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't want to disappoint you guys, but like, I have to do this. Like, I need to get my degree in something that I'm passionate about, because that's what I care about at the end of the day. And they were really supportive of it, so.
Yeah, that's great. I always like to say, like, no shame. You found your passion. I'm extremely jealous that you found it while you're in college. I went to school as an art major.
Mm-hmm.
Within a semester, I dropped out of that art school, and my parents supported me through that,
Yeah.
which I'm, like, upset. I'm like, why'd you let me go to art school? That was such a waste of time. But I wish I had the same, let's call it, like, determination, because I took a film class, fell in love, like, didn't realize how much I fell in love with it. I went, all right, great, I'll just get this sports management degree and get out of here. Well, I probably should have, shifted gears. So
Yeah.
that's what I think you did it the better route. Even though it might have taken you a little bit to find it, at least you found it. Especially when you're in school. That's
Especially my
absolutely massive.
freshman year. I was like, God, if I can
that was
just,
just your
if I
freshman
can
year?
just get
Oh,
a,
no time
yeah, I was
wasted.
like, if I can just
You
get
sounded
a
like
little
you were, like,
closer.
senior
Oh,
year,
no,
and you're
no. This was like my first term of school. I was immediately like, fuck this.
I take
I'm
some
not.
of that compliment.
Yeah. But I mean, at least I found that, and I did stick with that through the rest of college and everything. And I mean, hopefully now for the rest of my life, like, I figured it out. And I mean, I still like struggle with it, obviously, like, we're going
Right.
to talk about imposter syndrome, but
Right.
at the end of the day, I'm like, at least I got my degree in something that I know I love, and I got to spend many years just being immersed in that, which
Yeah.
was incredible.
Yeah, and then you got spit out into the real world, which is always a shock for
In
everybody.
2021.
Oh, man. That is rough.
Yeah.
So where do you go from that into getting, like, night shift going? It's at the very least, you can say that you have that spec that looks awesome, all that good stuff that you can shop around, do all that stuff. How did you get that going from graduate high school, college, and now you're trying to get funding for this short?
Yeah. So, I mean, graduating college was like really weirdly just didn't feel like it even happened.
Yeah,
I was
anticlimactic.
like, yeah, extremely anticlimactic. Just literally turned a paper in at 11:59 on a Friday, and I was like, all right, I'm done. I got my degree in the mail like 6 months later, and that was it. So it felt really weird, and it didn't feel like I mean, so many people in my, like age group experienced that, but it just felt like I never really officially got to close that chapter of my life and move on. It felt like I wasn't ready. Like, I really didn't feel like I was ready to be done with it, because especially my last year of school had been all online, and I just didn't feel like I got what I wanted out of college. So there was a lot of kind of grief wrapped up in feeling like I had kind of had this opportunity, especially your senior year of college, when that's when you're supposed to make your thesis and make all these networking connections.
How did that work with like making your senior final project?
I didn't do a thesis.
Talk about anticlimactic.
Yeah, like I literally made nothing for a year and a half. Like, it was really stifling. And there were so many reasons. It was like, not having the resources, not having the people like available people didn't want to make anything for a long time, which was like completely understandable, but it was super.
It doesn't mean it's not frustrating.
Yeah, it was super frustrating. So there was a lot of just, like I said, grief wrapped up in feeling like I didn't really get to take advantage of everything that I had offered to me at school. And it was like I lost this huge community all at the same time. And so that was really, really hard to deal with. And so I graduated, and I didn't know what was going to happen next. I knew there were things that were in production, like here in Portland, but I just didn't really know how to get my foot in the door. Like, I had worked on sets, I knew these people, but I was like, no one's reaching out. Like, nothing is. Oh,
nobody will either.
Nothing's happening. No one's reaching out to me. No one's offering me jobs. Like, I literally just got to this point where I was like pissed off. I was like, I need to do something. I need to work in film. I need to do something creative. And no one's knocking at my door trying to get me on their set to work on their project, whatever it was. And so finally I was like, I clearly just need to make something that is my project and try to get other people wrangled into it, because no one's doing that around me. And so that was kind of like my whole mindset behind wanting to start a new film. Was I wanted to finally, like, I needed to create a new platform for myself. I needed to like rediscover my voice and who I was as a creative. But I also really, really wanted to kind of have this platform for other people to make art with me. And like, film is so collaborative. It's never something I would try to do alone. And I don't recommend people do that, because you're probably not going to get like a great product out of it. So I was really determined in just knowing that that was the route I needed to take. I was like, I've always believed really deeply in like, don't wait for opportunities to come to you. Like, you need to make your own opportunity. And I've tried really hard, even when I was in college, to always do that and to always launch my own thing. So Night Shift happened, and I started with just first wrangling in my co-writer to write it with me. And from there, I just kind of, social media, as much as it fucking sucks to have to use it. It is also a huge blessing when you are trying to find people who are like-minded, have similar styles and values. Exactly.
You're on the show here. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, it can also be a really beautiful way to meet people and find collaborators. So I literally just started like posting shit on Instagram and just saying like, I have this concept, I want to make something. Who's interested? Like, who wants to help?
So in this day and age, grassroots.
Yeah. I would say very much grassroots. Yeah. Like, and I knew, some people already, but I'd say a majority of the people that are working on Night Shift with me are people I have known and have never had a chance to collaborate with, or they're just complete new people, like people who even moved to Portland like during the pandemic that I never really would have had a way to meet. Like, they didn't go to PSU or anything like that. So I just had this opportunity to meet all of these new faces that I had never been exposed to before. So that was really cool, and I'm still like so baffled by the amount of support and just people that have like rallied around like this stupid idea that I came up with in October of last year. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, don't beat yourself up for that stupid idea, but I do the same thing. It's like, oh, this dumb project that I'm doing, so like
when
diminish
it's just you, it's super easy to tell yourself that, and it's hard to get to that point where you're like, I'm passionate about this, I'm excited about this, I think this is a really cool story, and this is a story that deserves to be told. But it's like the pitching it to other people is always where the challenge comes in.
Right. And with all that, I'm sure imposter syndrome never rears its head. So how does imposter syndrome affect, like, especially pitching and now with your campaign to fund this thing?
Yeah.
Like, where is imposter syndrome sitting with it all?
So I feel like for me, it's never been the fact that like I don't think I'm talented or that I don't have a voice, because I believe pretty deeply that I do, and that I am someone who, you know, deserves to have ears open to them, honestly. But it's always hard to not compare yourself to other people, especially people who are, you know, like working in the same genre as I am, or just other indie filmmakers, like people that I went to college with, where I'm like, how are you like in LA and you're working on these big feature films, or like, how did you make this crowdfunding goal for your short film? Like it's really, really hard to not get caught up in just like the how and the what and why you and not me. Like,
and social media exemplifies that and amplifies it.
Absolutely.
In your face every single day if you let it.
Yeah.
But social media is also a firm part of all of this, especially with your campaign and everything like that. One question that I always ask somebody when I do these interviews, but I feel like I know your answer because of the community aspect of it, is would you take your following that you currently have right now, or tomorrow you wake up and there's 1 million new people? Granted, those 1 million people could always unfollow you tomorrow after they see what you post. Would you take your current following that's maybe a little more loyal, or would you take 1 million strangers?
I mean, if I knew 1 million strangers that had $15 a piece, I might have my movie funded by now, but
so that's a yes. Yeah.
You know, it's a hard question to answer fully either way, because like I can't really say I have like a following right now, but like the people that do support me are like very adamant about their support for me and have really rallied around me and have really like been so encouraging and just like kind people. And if anything, I just want more of that. Like, I don't want people to just like comment on my stuff and be like, this is cool, or like just like, oh, you're so inspiring. Like, I don't want like just blanket praise. I want people to feel connected to like me as a person and what I'm trying to accomplish. I don't really care about just having like eyes on the project or like just like blanket support.
Yeah. No, I love that. So the other thing that I didn't ask you about is, so clearly, like in the same boat, my whole job isn't doing the things I'm actually passionate about. Like if I had it my way, I'd be doing this project full time, right? But how do you balance like your time with, obviously you got to make money, you got to live, and then as well as the question of, do you think getting paid to do your art would hurt your art? So what about your time, and then what about getting paid for the art?
Yeah, so I mean, having time to like put into my creative projects is something that I always struggle with. I am grateful that I'm, you know, still young enough to where I can kind of just survive off of working like 25 hours a week at my coffee shop job and kind of just try to live cheaply and modestly and put every, you know, cent that I do have to spare into those creative endeavors. But there's also like many times where you just can't have both. So it's a struggle to balance it. If I got paid to do the shit that I do for free now, y'all, the world would be different. Like, I would be taking things over. I really feel like if I just had the fiscal, like, help to continue to do what, like I said, I've already been doing for free and as a passion on the side for so long, I could really, like, take my art to the next level. And, like, no surprise, film making is super fucking expensive, especially because I want to make sure that I am not just doing it for myself. Like, I really do believe that when I'm making a project like Night Shift, it's not just about me. It's not just about getting my career to the next level. I want that to happen for everyone that's on my crew, and I believe super deeply in being able to, compensate the people that are helping me in whatever, with however much I can offer them. And like, I try to offer, as much as I possibly can. But that's really important to me is, being able to not just have this be my thing. I want it to be everyone on my team's project, and I want to be able to support everyone kind of being able to, like, take their career to the next level.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, it's perfectly in line with what we're trying to do here as well.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love that. So we're going to get into a couple of, like, quick fire little questions. I always say that, and then I have like 3 or 4 questions. It's not a lot. The first one is, if you could have one actor, anybody, being something you make, who would you want to, like, direct?
Nicolas Cage.
Okay. Nicolas Cage. Your favorite horror movie of all time? Yeah, that's a tough one, right?
Why do you have to ask me that? Okay, American Werewolf in London.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to say it.
Your favorite horror movie that's terrible, but you love
it? Tammy and the T-Rex.
Interesting. That sounds wild.
It's hilarious. You should go watch it.
Okay. A suggestion for somebody who is deeply afraid of horror movies because I don't like being afraid.
Watch funny horror movies. There's so many.
Give me the best one.
Tammy and the T-Rex.
Okay. Double answer there. Why do you do roller derby? Because that's a whole nother thing we didn't even talk about.
I needed to get my aggression out some way, and that was the healthiest way I could think of doing it. And also, I like to just learn new skills. And also, roller derby is super, like, all about just inclusivity and people of any size, any color, any body shape, like, athletic ability. You can do roller derby. And it's super, like, female-oriented, which I love.
When I asked you a place that we can record that you're the most comfortable in, you instantly went to a cemetery, which is why we are in a cemetery. You want to explain that decision?
I mean, look at how beautiful it is here. It's so beautiful and it's so peaceful. And I mean, this is actually my first time ever hanging out in Lone Fir specifically, but I mean, coming from someone who lived in the desert, I love, like, getting to sit in parks of, like, any type.
Well, Portland's a dream for you.
No, exactly. Yeah. I never got that when I was growing up. So just being able to, like, casually roll up to a cemetery and be around, I don't know, just, like, all of it's just peaceful. It really is. Yeah. Like, I don't have anything, like, super, like, it's not because I like to be around dead people or anything like that. I mean, it'd be cool to, like, see a ghost or something, but I really just think it's so beautiful out here.
Love that. Do you ever see yourself, or do you want to, like, move to LA to pursue it?
No.
Okay.
It's never been on my radar, honestly. I think if I was to move anywhere for filmmaking, I would want to go to Vancouver, British Columbia, because I really genuinely love Vancouver.
Yeah. It's the backdrop of, like, every movie.
Yeah, no, exactly. I love like what has been filmed in Vancouver, and I love the just vibe of the city. I detest LA. Like I truly do, especially like from coming from Phoenix, which is also a disgustingly hot, very sprawling urban city. I have no interest in going back to that. I did 18 years. I did my time. I'm ready to like be in the green and just like have nice quality air and good drinking water. Like that's great. I'm down for that.
Yeah, love that. And then the last question I like to ask everybody is, do you think you'll make it big? And however you want to define that.
Yeah, I mean, making it big, I don't even really know what that would look like for me. I would love to have an opportunity to make like a feature. Like that's really definitely on my radar, is to make a feature like by the time I'm 30. So I have a while, but I don't know. I would like to think so. And making it big doesn't mean I need to like be famous or anything. Yeah. It really just is like,
it's more internal.
Yeah, I want to be able to share my art with a wider audience, I would say. Right. And I want to be able to connect with more people who feel connected to the stories that I'm trying to tell, and you know, the horror community, and just be able to share my love of cinema with more people, because I always want to meet more people that can share their love of art with me, like in any capacity. And if I could do that on a bigger platform one day, that would be incredible.
Great. Well, while it's not a massive platform right now, some of the stuff we do want to do is have people be able to ask you the stuff that I didn't ask you, that maybe, you know, our article didn't ask you, anything like that. So there'll be lots of opportunity for that. But I do want to have you just plug anything that you want to plug. It's going to mostly be this night shift thing. But yeah, and like where we can find you, everything like that. But yeah, anything you want to plug,
should I look at the camera?
Go for it.
Okay,
whichever
cool.
one of you want to look at.
All right. Listen up. If you liked what we were just talking about and you want to support me, you can follow me on Instagram at karlee_boon. You can follow my upcoming short film at night.shift.short. Or you can go follow me on Twitter, I guess, karlee_boon, because I share more stupid shit on there, and it's a fun time. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming on, and I'm super excited to see Night Shift when it does get funded. I'm sure it will. But yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you. This
Sweet.
was so fun.
Sweet. Should be out. Thank you for tuning into this podcast. If you want more information on this artist, you can find it on our website, nøbodiesproject.com. You can follow us on Spotify as well as on our socials at the Nøbodies Project on Instagram. But more importantly, we want you to be a part of this community, and you do this by submitting your artwork to us. We want the things that you're the most stoked on, maybe things that you're too nervous to show anybody else, but we want all of it. And you can do that by submitting your artwork at submit@thenobodiesproject.com. And we promise to look at every single person's artwork who is submitted, and everybody at the Nøbodies Project will give you honest and heartfelt feedback. And thank you for being here and checking out the Nøbodies Project.